Hi, it's Jodi. Today I'm going to show you a host stamp set from the annual catalog called Very Vintage. And I'll just pull that set in so that you can see it. It's a 10-piece set and it comes wood mount or clear mount. You can see it's got a variety of pieces as well as some greetings on here with a really nice font. So what I wanted to make sure everyone understood is that the host stamp set, so this is in the annual catalog, page 226 is where this starts, and it says just for hosts. You don't actually have to host a party to qualify to be able to get these exclusive stamp sets. So when you do an order that's $150 or more, that qualifies for the host Stampin' Rewards here. So if you did an order just for yourself or you and a friend and it's $150 or more, not only are you going to get some free product, but you can choose to use that Stampin' Reward amount to get one of these host exclusive stamp sets. This one, for example, the wood stamp set is a $30 value, but you only have to use 18 of your Stampin' Rewards dollars, and the clear mount value is $22, but you only use $13.50. So they're exclusive and they give you them at a lower price than retail. So that's pretty awesome. And sometimes I feel like I overlook these. You know, there's so much here in the catalog, so many awesome stamp sets. But I just ordered this and I got it out for the first time last night. And so I wanted to take some time today and show you all of the cards I made last night and give you some tips on some new coloring techniques. So I'll pull this in first. This is one of our very vanilla note cards and envelopes. So I'm just gonna set this down here so you can see. So I've got this bigger image here. And look at all of that detail. This is just stamped on very vanilla cardstock with soft suede ink. And then this piece here, if you notice, I'm going to open this up. This is a straight piece. But with the clear mount, if you attach it to the block and make it just a little bit curved, you can get that curved image right there. So you can see it's not quite straight, but with the clear mount, you can manipulate that just a little bit. And then I added the Dear Friend down here, and the ink and the cardstock are both the new Petal Pink. So that is the first thing. And then this, I just love this one. Hopefully you can see the, yeah, there you can see it. The words on here embossed with copper embossing powder. And then there are some copper sequins here, and that is from this metallic sequin assortment. And so, oh my gosh, that's got so much glimmer. That is so pretty. So there's all sorts of different ones in there, metallics, but I chose a few of the copper ones. And then there's also the copper edged ribbon here. So this card in person has a lot of shimmer to it. I used that same bigger background image and stamped on here with crumb cake ink. And then I also used this image right here with the mint macaron, and I stamped off a couple of times just so that when it's stamped on the background here, it's not like too predominant. I wanted it to kind of blend in with the background and be more subtle. And then there's this little bee stamp that I added in a few spots too. And then you can see right in here, I stamped with that same mint macaron image on the background there just to give it a little more. Now what I wanted to point out with this one in particular is this stitched shape that you see here. This is part of the Stitched Seasons framelits that are available only this month, August 2018. And so what's neat about them, so this piece here with vanilla, I cut out the stitched shape and it does a stitched line on the outside, but it also does one on the inside. And then, so I got this, I'll kind of set that there so you can see. So it did a stitched line there and there, and then I cut this smaller piece and it did a stitched line there and there. So there are 3 sizes in this shape so that you can do some fun borders like that. And then you also have this piece left over with the stitched lines that you can use on another project. So there is that one. This, I got my inspiration out of the catalog. So where I showed you this stamp set in the back of the annual catalog, there's a card that looks very much like this right there as a sample. So the catalog is a great resource for creative inspiration, whether you take something and do it exactly like it was in the catalog, or change it up a little bit and just have a different color card base if you wanted. So on here, I did some of those same elements in the background. I embossed the greeting again with silver and powder, used those sequins again, the same ribbon. But I just did one with crumb cake and one with mint macaron just as a comparison to see which one I liked better. I also did, I don't know if you can see, a little bit of stamping on the actual card base there to blend that in. And I didn't do that on this one. So those are a few of the things I sat down and made last night. And then these are the last two, and this is what I want to spend more time on. So they look very similar. This one though is done with watercolor pencils, and this one is done with our Stampin' Blends. And so I just want to give you some tips because I did something, I just kind of sat down to play, but I did something different that I haven't done with pencils before, and then something I haven't done with blends. So I'm not necessarily going to make the whole card for you, but I want to show you some of those little things that I did. So I stamped this image with StazOn, the jet black StazOn ink, and that's what I'm going to use for watercoloring. So when you do watercolor, you want the black StazOn ink. So I'll set some of these things aside. I'm not necessarily going to do all of it, but I'll put some color in. This is Old Olive, and so I'm just, as you do with watercolor pencils, you just get color in the general area. You don't have to make sure every little bit is covered, so it's kind of a fast way to color. So this, like I said, is Old Olive. And then I'm going to come in with some Calypso Coral. Just add some of that down here on these flowers. And then I'll do a little crushed curry. Now this one is from our second assortment. So again, available this month, you can get the second assortment of watercolor pencils, and crushed curry is part of that collection. So the other colors I'm using are part of our original watercolor pencils, which you can find in the annual catalog. The last thing I'll do is pull in some rich razzleberry, and I'll do that. I feel like I'm being sloppy, but it's really all you need to do, because once you go back and blend, it just fills everything in. I'll do this one really quickly. Okay, so this isn't new. This is how I always color with the watercolor pencils, but what I did with the blender pen, so let me pull that in so you can see, it's kind of just scribbling. But what I did then with the blender pen is I took the blender pen and went over this area like I usually would, but then I intentionally pulled it out of the lines a little bit just to kind of give it, I don't know, it looks a little softer. It looks just muted a little bit, not as defined, because it's intentionally going out of the lines a little bit. Do the same thing here, and it makes it really fast and easy to blend because you don't have to worry about staying in the lines when you're intentionally going out a little bit. So it's a really fast way to color when you do it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in the original card again and kind of point out, you know, you see, now that I'm doing it and showing you, you see some of those areas where the color is outside the lines. And it's just a fun, different look. It's not as crisp, but I really like it. The last thing I did with this is I took, and again, this is something you probably won't notice until I show you, and then you'll see it. I took my crumb cake ink pad, got some ink on the lid, took my aqua painter, just squeeze it to get some water going here, and then picked up some of this crumb cake ink, and I just colored like this. I just went around my image, kind of in between some of these spots here. I'm doing it fast right now because I didn't want to pull the other colors. I just wanted to fill in with some of that white space. And so as I pull this up, you can see where I haven't gone yet. This is more stark vanilla than over here where it's got that crumb cake. So again, on the finished card, you may notice it. Let me pull this in as a point of reference. So you can kind of see here how this is more bright and this is more muted where I've added the crumb cake ink. Okay, so just some not super obvious tips with this with watercoloring, just blending outside the lines and then doing a wash with crumb cake on the background. So let me show you my little technique tip for the blends. This I just stamped on one of those shapes from the Stitch Seasons Framelits just because I had it sitting here and I thought it was fun. This one I did with Memento ink. That is the ink that you use when you're using the Stampin' Blends because they're alcohol markers. So I basically used the same colors. I did substitute a Daffodil Delight instead of the crushed curry for the Stampin' Blends. So what I did, let's take this one first. I went with the lighter shade. Blends have a thicker brush end here and then a bullet end. That's what I'm using. This is the lighter shade of Rich Razzleberry. And so I colored in. This one I did want to take a little more time and be more particular about actually, you know, staying in the lines. So hopefully I'll do that as I'm showing you this. Okay. And then what I did is I took my dark one, again the bullet end, and I used the lines, you know, that are here in the image, the darker lines. So I just kind of cheated and used those to get some shadowing. So I just literally scribbled on some of the darker color. You can see where I have it there. But then instead of going back and blending it out really carefully, what I did is I just took this and just scribbled a little bit. I guess I was being lazy last night because I kind of did a lot of scribbling and things that were faster. So normally when I use blends, you know, I would take the light, I would take the dark, and then I would very carefully, so it's a faded color, blend that out. But I just had a lot of fun doing this last night because it made it a little bit more random. So I applied my color, added a little bit of the dark, and then just went over it and scribbled a little bit. Didn't worry about everything being perfectly blended. Let me pull this one back in so that you can see that. Oops, sorry for the movement there, trying to refocus. So you can see, you know, there's some more defined lines, but then others that are just blended out. Same thing down here with the Calypso Coral. So it was just kind of a faster way of using blends as well, and not taking that tip and going over and over and over that one spot, but just kind of randomly there was more variation by scribbling over it instead of blending it out perfectly. So this is very vintage, host exclusive stamp set. Remember, that's slightly misleading because you don't have to host to be eligible to get this with the Stampin' Rewards. So it's a 10-piece set, wood mount, clear mount, and literally, I mean, I sat down last night and very quickly created these 6 cards. It did not take long to come up with some ideas with these. And like I said, this one totally got my inspiration from the catalog itself. So lots of ideas here. That stamp set is available through the annual catalog, which is through next May. So there's lots of things you can do with it, but if you want to use these framelits, make sure you get that ordered today before the end of the month so that they're still available for you. Thanks so much for watching.